There are four fundamental operations. Those are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In this video, we will talk about subtraction. When we're talking about integers, those are your natural numbers, and so on. Its additive inverse, -1, -2, -3, and our 0. These are your integers. There are no fractions or decimals in it. These are your integers. There are no fractions or decimals. Do take note of the additive inverse where you have an integer and you add it with its additive inverse. It's going to give us 0. This will help us with our subtraction. For example, let's have a positive integer subtracting another positive integer. You can simply say this is just 7 minus 6 and it will give you 1. No one will argue with that. But for this, I am going to take the additive inverse of the positive 6 and I'm going to change the sign of subtraction here. It's going to be 7 plus the additive inverse of positive 6, that would be -6. Remember, the additive inverse is when you add that number and its additive inverse, it should be 0. Positive 6 plus -6 will give you 0. And by using the rules of adding integers, the larger number between these two is 7. The sign of the sum is positive. We don't need to write that. And since they have different signs, we will find the difference, which is just 1. You might say that this is a more complicated way of doing minus, but this will help you later on. Let's try then having the opposite sign. 7 minus -6. What will that give you? This one is tricky at first, but once we apply the technique that we did in the first one, this would be really easy. Take that 7, change that subtraction to addition, and take the additive inverse of -6. That would be simply +6. And the sum of 7 and 6 is 13. Let's have a few more examples with a negative in the front minus +6. Same steps. Take that first integer, change the minus sign into addition. Take the additive inverse of +6, and that would be -6. Adding negative and negative will always give you negative, and the sum of 7 and 6 is 13. So -7 minus 6 is simply -13. How about if both are negative? How about if both are negative? Same logic. Take the first integer, change the subtraction sign to addition sign, get the additive inverse of -6, which is +6, and that would give us -7 plus 6. Since they have different signs, we will find the difference, but the sign of the sum is going to be negative because 7 is the larger number of the two, and the difference of 7 and 6 is 1. Before we end, let's have some more examples with subtracting both positive integers. Positive minus a negative minus a positive, and a negative minus another negative. Let's start off here. +5 minus +3. Take the first integer, change that minus into addition. Take the additive inverse of +3. Since they have different signs, we're going to find the difference. But the sign of the sum is going to be positive since 5 is the larger of the two numbers. So the difference of 5 and 3 is 2. Next, we have 6 minus negative 2, take the first integer, change the minus to addition. The additive inverse of negative 2 is simply positive 2. The sum of 6 and 2 is 8. Next up, we have negative 8. Change that minus to positive. The additive inverse of positive 5 is negative 5. Since they are both negative, it will give us negative, and the sum of 8 and 5 is 13. Finally, we have negative 20 minus negative 6. Take that negative 20 plus the additive inverse of negative 6. They have different signs. The larger of the two is 20. We're going to take the sign of the 20. And the difference of 20 and 6 is 14. That's it. End.